John, this did not go the way that leading Republicans had wanted, whether your name's Mike Johnson, Donald Trump, or Elon Musk. Jake Sherman over at Punchbowl News says the vote failed just moments ago. 38 Republicans saying, sorry, Mr. President-elect, but we're not going to go along with this. John, what do you make of this? And does this kind of give you any sense of concern or a window into, my goodness, what the next 4 years may look like?
Yeah. My sense of concern as a comms guy is that Republicans keep falling into the same trap of looking like they're not organized, like the radicals are in control. I happen to side with the radicals on a lot of this stuff. I think we do need to dramatically cut the budget and change the way we're funding things and really be scrutinizing every dollar that goes out there. But I mean, I would remind these guys, look, you got Joe Biden in the White House, you've got a Democrat Senate. This is probably not the right time to be making a dramatic change. And you've got, it's proving what will be a problem for the speaker going forward, because he's got one group of folks who do want to present this image that everything's going to be okay and that we're competent, we're responsible. And then you got another group of people who I don't think they want to literally blow up the Capitol, but they want to blow up government in D.C. and they don't give a damn whether the government stops tonight, tomorrow, Christmas Day, New Year's. That's inconsequential to them. And it's going to be hard to reconcile the two.
Michael, you're a longtime Democratic staffer, and I know you from there, from the Hill. Give me your perspective about now watching this drama unfold from the outside. How different is this from the way things usually go? And, I'm also reminded here, Michael, that, Donald Trump is still not yet president. There is another
Allegedly.
man who is president. Allegedly, there is still another. I mean, this is all being operated by a lot of players who are not yet in power, and yet here we are, Michael.
It's insanity. I mean, this chaos reminds me of the offense of my beloved Chicago Bears. It's going nowhere fast, and I don't really know what the answer is here. To your point, we have a president. He's not involved in this for some precarious reason. And to that other end, you got Elon Musk and Donald Trump traveling the world, meeting with other world leaders. You've got House Democrats working with the Speaker and House Republican leadership to get a deal done. And it was my understanding that they thought they had a deal done and they were blindsided by Musk and then subsequently Trump and all of this. And so as we look at the next 2 to 4 years, I don't know how this operates. I can tell you that Leader Jeffries wants to work with the Speaker to get stuff done over the next few years. But the reality seems to be that the Speaker doesn't have control of his conference. It's actually Elon Musk who seems to be directing both Donald Trump and House Republicans. I don't know how you operate in that way. But I do think, I'll say this, me being the eternal optimist I am, there's a lot of room for bipartisanship that we should be looking at over the next few years. I know that House Dems want to get some stuff done, but I don't know if Elon Musk is going to blow it up just like he blew this up. So we'll see.
Michael, are you equally optimistic about the Chicago Bears or no?
I'm 43 years old. They've been awful my whole life except for 1 year. It's never going to. It ain't coming back, It is what it is.
Dude, I'm a New York Football Giants fan, man, as you well remember. As is Hakeem, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, things are brutal over here. John, I want to drill down a little bit more here on the Trump phenomenon of kind of using social media from the sidelines, weighing in, encouraging people to do this and to do that. Kind of what are you hearing, John? I wonder from Republicans about to what degree they, obviously, even if Trump's not yet president, they still kind of want to play the game. And not a lot of them, but maybe more than we thought, are willing to kind of go against Trump's demands, wishes, whatever we want to call them.
Somebody's got to call the plays here. I mean, the Elon Musk factor is really interesting. It's different than Rush Limbaugh. I don't know if you all remember when Rush was at the top of his power on the radio. He could make a comment at 1 p.m. in his highest rated half hour, and the phones would blow up at the Capitol. People were just repeating whatever Rush told them to do. And it seems like in the social media era with Elon Musk and others who have influence, that's what we're going to see going forward. But still, I mean, I'm looking last weekend at the speaker was, if I remember correctly, the speaker was with President-elect Trump at the Army-Navy game. Vivek and his little kid were at the Army Navy game with they've been hanging out a lot together. That's what's frustrating to me about this is if you're going to spend that much time doing photo ops together and going to ball games, great. But this is the moment to show that you're competent, that you've got your act together, that you know what the plan is. If the plan is to allow a government shutdown and try to embarrass Joe Biden, okay. I mean, I think that's a play that you could run. It hasn't worked very well for Republicans in the past, but maybe you think you can make your point in social media and with the evening news and somehow come out of this setting the stage for Trump to be the person who shows up and is victorious and cleans up other people's mess. I just don't think that's how that's playing, at least not tonight. We'll see what happens tomorrow morning with the new plan that's supposedly been cobbled together. And I guess that'll get leaked on social media too over the next couple of hours.
That's why I set all my notifications for social media across the board. Just for moments like this, I want to hear what all my old friends, the old reporters, have to say down on the Hill. Michael, you, if I'm not mistaken, your years on the Hill coincided with at least a couple government shutdowns, some longer than others, some more substantial than others, but there's always an impact, right? There's the difference between essential workers, non-essential workers. Michael, kind of remind our viewers, what does that actually look like, in terms of the average American's perception of the federal government? And then what's it like a bit of inside baseball when you're there on the Hill and you're like, oh, well, guess the government's shutting down for a while.
First of all, indulge me a little bit. I'm so old. I worked in the Senate before government shutdowns were a regular thing, before CRs were a regular thing, because this is actually insane. This is actually not how you govern, regardless of party. The idea that every year or so we deal with this CR just to keep the government alive, that's insane. Now, that being said, if a government shutdown happens, it essentially hurts the lowest level people across the board. And so by that, I mean, the people who clean the bathrooms in the House and Senate buildings, they lose their jobs. The entry-level staff assistants and staffers who make $30,000 a year on the Hill, they lose their jobs. So by the way, they don't get a paycheck, which means unless you've got some sort of family money, you might be out on the street to no fault of your own because your bosses have made a decision that doesn't involve you. And so that's the interesting dynamic, which is the government shutdown actually hurts the lowest level people. But if you're a member of Congress or some lobbyist who's involved in this, you're not really affected that much, but the lowest level people are. And, from a staffer perspective, what's happening right now are conversations where people are saying to each other, I hope this doesn't happen because I can't pay my rent unless the government stays open.
John, we're fundamentally talking about the role of federal government differently right now than we have in years past. And I wonder, John, from your years working alongside Senator George Allen to where we are now, are you more optimistic about the way that this new look Republican Party is saying, we're going to cut the pork, we're cutting the fat, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing all these new things because of Musk and Vivek and Trump's second term? Or does a night like tonight give you more pessimism than optimism to say, my God, how far we have fallen from the way that things used to be, to Michael's point?
Well,
by the way, George Allen had great hair, by the way. Go ahead.
This is not the way to run a government. And it's been on display for a long time. And I think that's one reason that Republicans have been given another opportunity to govern is that, people are fed up, and Trump and the cadre of Vivek and Elon Musk have given some people hope that there'll be fresh eyes in here and some aggressive business-minded people who will, do the dirty work and cut out a lot of the extraneous spending. I just think tonight, with Joe Biden in office, with the Democrats running the Senate, I'm puzzled as to what point we're making. My fear, both in a practical sense and a communication sense, is that this will be portrayed as Donald Trump and his team being Keystone cops. I don't think that's the case, before I get quoted wrong and the Trump people hate me. But I think that's probably tomorrow morning how that's portrayed. That's not helpful. I mean, no drama Obama. There was plenty of drama. It wasn't reported the same way as it would have if it had been a Republican president, but it worked. And I think Republicans need to build confidence with the public that the dramatic changes that are going to be painful, that are going to send people howling in the streets, that are probably coming I hope are coming in the next year, are going to be thoughtful and reasonable, and they're going to be handled like a surgeon. If you're watching it, it's ugly, but you have confidence that the surgeon knows what they're doing. I don't think that's what we're getting from this tonight, from a PR standpoint and a practical standpoint.
Michael, I wonder what you've made of, I'm sure you've heard Democrats in recent days. I caught a lot in the last 24 hours. A lot of Democrats are calling Elon Musk the president, and they're referring to Donald Trump as the vice president. And I just feel like I mean, if there's one thing that's really going to get under the skin of the president-elect, it's the idea that he was elected, he won all 7 swing states, and yet he's somehow not going to be the most powerful person in the world, let alone the room. Do you view that as an effective approach in terms of messaging? You're both messaging communications pros through and through. How do you feel like that's playing? Because that's something, Michael, I've noticed Democrats are going after as we look at these barrages of tweets from Elon Musk telling lawmakers what to do.
I, for one, welcome the leadership of President Musk. I'm looking forward to his administration. It's going to be very exciting. This is exactly what Democrats should do because, Donald Trump is a vain guy. And so, the idea that someone could be more powerful than him directly attacks the ego that he has. I do think it's insane the way this is unrolled today. As it relates to House Democrats, House Republicans have a deal that they worked on. Elon Musk just starts tweeting and then blows the whole thing up via tweet. And then President Trump at some point weighs in after Musk. But it looks like Musk is leading the effort and Trump is following behind. And also, you got to remember, there are a few other data points here. You've got Musk sitting in on Trump's calls with world leaders and other CEOs. You've got Musk taking meetings with and on behalf of Trump. I mean, these are things that, first of all, have never happened. I mean, Logan Roy would kill to have this kind of access to the president of the world. But, I think we're going to get to a point where Musk and Trump can't fit in the same room, because I think at some point Trump's going to say, hey, I'm in charge. I got elected. This is my decision. And I think Musk is going to overstep his boundaries. I mean, because the other part of this, here's the issue. The Silicon Valley guys in general think they're far smarter than they actually are. And so they think they know better than the guys in government how to fix government. I actually agree with the notion that there are many broken things in government. There's way too much spending. But the smarter thing to do here would be for Trump to work with adults who can surgically fix those things versus a guy who just wants to come in and throw a bomb and blow the whole thing up. I think that's insane.
We're going to pull up this comment. This is a good question. And I'll start with John. Maybe you both have a bit. This is just, because we also like to inform the audience, right? The three of us are politics nerds. We've been in the game for a long time. It's easy to get in the weeds. This is the stuff we text each other about. Like we talk about this stuff like weirdos over drinks at happy hour. But this is a great question. How does a government shutdown really affect the remaining Americans who don't work for the government? Like, it just seems like a lot of political posturing. John, I am reminded, of course, a lot of your major monuments, a lot of your major museums, especially there in Washington, D.C. Sorry, you got a family trip. You're going to the Smithsonian? Not anytime soon. John, what is the impact or what concerns you as you see this political posturing play itself out to say, yeah, maybe the lights of the government do have to go dark for 30 days like we've seen before? What does that mean to the average American watching at home?
Well, if you're a political person in Virginia, if you're the senator from Virginia, if you're the governor from Virginia, you do have to worry because there are a lot of people who are employed in D.C. in the federal government that live in Virginia. That's what the population in Northern Virginia that drives so much of the political mood across the state. So, there's a practical reality of the trickle-down effect if this thing were to go on for an extended period of time. You always feel bad if somebody has saved up and wants to come to D.C. to go to the Smithsonian. I don't think we can make budgetary decisions for the entire country long-term based on, whether they're going to be disappointed families. They can't go to the, see the original Star Spangled Banner. And I would hope that we wouldn't see the theatrics that we've seen in the past, where the Park Service sets up barriers so you can't go up and see Abraham Lincoln's statue. Those are kind of symbolic things that can be played to wear on people's emotions. I'm always worried, as somebody who used to get a federal paycheck in the U.S. Senate, I don't want to see people go without without pay. I think this is probably a short-term thing. And I would really advise everybody who's talking about this on the Republican side, get into the Trump administration, get full control of everything with the bureaucracy, the House, the Senate, and the administration. Don't let this unravel right now when people might be swayed by the emotional arguments. And, you know, when we're in 2025 after January 20th, you'll actually be able to navigate things. That's what's puzzling to me, is how is this blowing up right now? And there will be 1,000 stories tomorrow that are probably already written because they're rewrites from the last time we did this that will impact people in a negative way. I think that's kind of foolish.
I think there's a lot of reporters that had these stories from like the end of 2019. Remember the big thing around Christmas? Was it 2019? Or no, I guess Christmas 2020. We had that last tranche of COVID dollars. We had another threats of a shutdown. This was Trump's very final weeks in office. It was absolute chaos after the election during that lame duck period. Marcelin says 33 days, enjoy those to the fullest. Michael, I want to ask you the same question. The impact for average Americans who may be waking up come Sunday morning and saying, shit, man, the federal government's closed. What does that mean for me?
Well, Monday morning, someone's grandma is going to wake up and put her muumuu on and her slippers and walk out to the mailbox at the end of her driveway, and she's going to open it. And there'll be no Social Security check in there. And she's going to say, how am I going to pay rent without this check? And so that's going to happen to millions of people across the country in terms of people who rely on the government for assistance, you know, people who are old, people who are disabled, all those sorts of things. They won't have the money they need to survive. I mean, I think that's obviously one. I think, you know, it affects the entire government, our military. It affects everything on down. And then also there's this very small part of, you know, like the sandwich shops around Capitol Hill. There'll be no staffers that come in and buy sandwiches, and so they can't be open. So the guy who owns that sandwich shop is also out of luck. And so it reverberates really across the country and across the region in a real problematic way that really just really affects us regular people. And the people who actually run the town aren't really that much affected at all.